Hi everyone, my name is Ali and welcome back to another episode of Story of My Life. Today with us we have a very special guest, Syed Zawad. He is a Ph.D. candidate at University of Nevada, Reno. He has worked with Baidu, a tech giants in China. He worked with IBM, a tech giant in US, and currently he is working in Microsoft Research. I'm really excited to talk about his research and his upbringing today in this episode. Syed, thank you so much for your time and welcome to Story of My Life.
Thank you for having me. This is quite a pleasure.
Of course, yeah. So you have had a really diverse experience since in your life. So I would like to know a little bit about your upbringing and where were you born and raised?
Okay, so I was born in Bangladesh, in that city called Dakha.
Okay.
Right. Actually, I wasn't born in Dakha. I was born in Khulna, but I moved to Dakha when I was still like a baby. Right. So I just grew up in Dakha, right, since I was born. Right. So I grew up in the middle of the city. You can just say that I am like a city boy through and through. Like all my life, I've been in the city. I've lived in the city. All my friends are from the city. Right. I've studied in the city, and I've worked in the city. Right. I've never actually worked anywhere. I've never actually lived anywhere else apart from the city. Until I was like, around 24, 25 years old, and then I kind of moved to America. Yeah.
So how was your experiences like growing up in Dhaka? I know like there's a big city with like, a lot of people, like, there's a lot of, when you're living in a big city, you see like, sometimes you can only hang out in certain places, right? Because of like different reasons. So how was your experience like growing up in a big city?
So honestly, I don't think it's, I really enjoyed my life in Dhaka, right? There are like ups and downs, a lot of ups and downs, right? But it kind of makes life exciting in a lot of ways, right? So the neighborhood I grew up in was like, it had like, it wasn't like the most expensive, extravagant neighborhood or whatever, but I did end up with like a lot of friends from a lot of different social classes, and I believe that kind of made me way more open to to different challenges that people face in everyday life, and it's also made me way more. I think it's made me more friendlier because I felt that I can pretty much get along with anyone I meet. I haven't had any trouble with making friends wherever I go, and I believe that's like one of the big reasons for that. It's because the neighborhood where I grew up in, I had like amazing friends from all different social classes and all different ages or whatever, and that's actually one of the great advantages of living in a city, which is you get a lot of people, like a small amount of place, right? A small amount of space, right? And you get a lot of experience, and I honestly have no regrets. I actually am really grateful that I got to experience that.
That's amazing. Yeah. That's amazing. So you did your high school until high school, and then you went to college there as well, right?
Yep, I went to college.
And during college, you studied your computer science. Tell us about how is like when you have studied in the United States, you have studied in Dhaka as well and Bangladesh as well. How do you see the differences between education systems? Like, because I've seen a lot of people complain about, especially in our countries, why cannot we be like America or why cannot we be like Europe, right? So that's a common phrase we use whenever we face a problem. Like, America has this, why don't we have this? Like, how do you see that difference between Dhaka and America?
So I feel like the philosophies are fundamentally different when it comes to education.
Okay.
Between my country and America in general, right? The first big difference is that in our country, we believe that education is it's a right, like it's like same thing in America. I'm not saying you don't believe that, right? But in our country, we believe that you have to fight for your right. So in a way, like you have to fight for your education. In that, the professors or the teachers that I had, they weren't there to help you out to get an education. Okay. They were there to give you the education, and you had to take it from them. Okay. Right. And here it's like the opposite way, right? So to explain it better, right? So for example, I remember in my first computer science programming class, I walked into the room, right, and my professor was like, and my lecturer, right, he's like, if you find a problem that you can't solve, Google it. That's what Google is for, right? And whenever I asked him like a question, or anyone else in my class asked him a question, and he was like, you know what? You can find it on Google. Google it, right? Don't ask me this question, right? Okay. And the way they graded us was we got like points. Like for example, we had like 100 questions, like. Yeah. And if you got even one statement of those programs wrong, the whole thing was like 0, right? Wow. So it's like a binary marking, but binary 0 or 1, right? Yeah. So as a result, you had to like suffer for your education in a way, right? they weren't here to help you out. Rather, they were here to push you,
Yeah.
to, like, you know, to your to get the most out of you. Like, you had to learn yourself. You had to, like, you had to fend for yourself,
Yeah,
basically,
yeah.
right? And also, like, coming from a not so extravagant, like, not so let's just say financially stable country like
Yeah,
America, right?
of course.
We didn't have as many resources, like,
Yeah.
you know, like big labs or whatever, right? We had to, like, you know, we had like one laptop among 3 guys, and, you know, we used to share that and, you know, work with that and so on, right? So I feel like we suffered for our education, and as a result, we take it more seriously. I don't know if that makes sense, right? We had to, like, fight for it,
Yeah.
right? Even though education is technically free, right? The way that it's handled to us, like, you know, like grades aren't free, right?
Yeah.
You have to work
Yeah.
hard for it, right?
Yeah.
When it comes to America, what I found is, as a TA or whatever, this wasn't striking to me at all, because I feel like that is how it should be, like how education should be. But, like, here, people are here to help you out.
Yeah.
Right? They hand it to you in a way. Like, to me, it feels like they're handing it to you in a silver platter, right?
Yeah.
But it's not really the case.
Yeah.
But the fact is, the place where I come from,
It's a different perspective,
it's
right?
a different perspective.
You taught here. You have been, like, studying all your life back in Bangladesh, and you taught courses here
Exactly.
during your PhD. So that's how you see the difference.
Yeah,
between the
exactly.
country,
Like,
right?
it feels like, you know, it's the whole environment of the university is made to ensure that you pass and you succeed, right?
Yeah.
But
I think one of the main reasons is because you have more opportunities here in US, right? So and in our country, due to the supply and demand, right? So there's, like, less demand, and you have a lot of supply. At the same time, we also have the problem of scarcity of the resources, right? So that plays a big role, that, like, you know, whatever opportunity you have to grab it, otherwise 15 other people are waiting in the line to get that opportunity.
Exactly,
right?
exactly. Like, a lot of competition, right?
Yeah.
And that forces you to be good at what
Yeah.
you do, right?
Yeah.
So if you find someone if you find someone who's good in Bangladesh, I know for a fact that he'll be really, really good
In any part of the world.
In any part of the world, right? Because they've been through it, right?
Yeah.
It's not just like, you know, they're like nerds and that, like, you know, they're really good at grades or whatever. It's also that, like, they went through a lot of hardships in life in general,
Yeah.
right? So in a way, like, you know, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So the next thing, like, you know, should we stop? Yeah, let's
Oh, okay,
stop.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sorry.
Oh boy.
Welcome back again. Due to some weather difficulties, we had to switch our location. Anyways, we were talking about our education system in different countries. So after finishing your high school, you applied to college, and then after graduating from college with your computer science degree, you started working, right? And then how long did you work, and when did you decide you want to pursue your graduate studies?
Right. So, right out of college, I had a startup, right?
Yeah.
Because, you know, because that was like the thing back then, right?
Yeah.
Everyone who was ambitious tried to do a startup, right?
Yeah.
Because the industry wasn't really that, like, you know, that welcoming to new graduates, right?
Yeah.
So we just tried a startup. Unfortunately, it failed because of a lot of reasons. The number one reason being, you know, we were all just young people with no experience in life,
Yeah.
and we had no idea how to handle, like,
Yeah.
we could do the programming and stuff, but not the financial matters of a startup.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot from that.
Yeah.
But eventually, you know, we kind of had to, like, go our own separate ways, right?
Yeah.
So then I joined a company, which actually had, like, a lot of, like, they paid, like, really well,
Yeah.
right? And when I got that company, when I got in that company, I told my like the people I had started the company with, and they were very, very sad, but, you know, like, because that was like the nail in the coffin that, you know, like, the startup wasn't really going anywhere,
Yeah.
right? And so it was a sad day, but at the same time, the company was one of the best companies back then
Yeah.
in our country. So I was, like, really lucky to get a job there, and I just thought that it would be stupid of me to not say no to that offer, right?
Yeah.
So I joined the company. I worked again for, like, one more year, and halfway through working in that company, I realized that I'm not the kind of person who can. I program for the fun of it, right?
Yeah.
And the problem with that company was it was like a 9-to-5 job, and it was like I had to sit on the desk, I had to program all day, and it felt like clerical work,
Yeah.
right? The kind of programming that I had to do was not challenging enough for me,
Okay.
right? The kind of development process that I had to go through. And I really didn't enjoy that, like, 9-to-5 grind or whatever. And I realized that I actually want something new from life, right? Like I want something a bit more exciting, right? So I thought that okay, now that I am like in a 9 to 5 job, my next step is like probably going to manager and then maybe eventually CTO or whatever of some company here, right? But I realized that I don't really want that, right? What I want to do was explore the world, right? I want to like explore my options, right? And from a young age, I was like I was a geek, I was a nerd, right? I guess you can tell, right? So one of my biggest influences was like when people used to watch Cartoon Network, I used to watch National Geographic and Discovery Channel, right?
Wow.
And I really liked scientists back then. Like I was like, oh man, God, that's really cool. So I decided that, you know what, I always wanted to be a scientist, right? As a kid, right? I had no idea what being a scientist actually entails, right?
Yeah.
I wanted to be a scientist and, I want to see the world. So, let me just, like, the first step towards being a scientist is getting a Ph.D., right?
Yeah.
And consequently, what that means is I also get the option to, like, come abroad and, see the world, right? So I started applying, and here I am.
So applying process, like a lot of our viewers, they are always intrigued about the application process for somebody who is coming from that part of the world, for example, Pakistan, India, Bangladesh. How hard was it for you to apply for the graduate school, and how long was the planning process, and what did you do? Could you step by step explain it to us, like what was the process like for you?
All right. So the thing is, I do stuff on a whim, right?
Yeah.
So one day, I've been thinking of it for a while, but one day I just woke up and I decided that, you know what, I can't keep doing this. I gotta do something else with my life, right? So one day I woke up, I called up one of my friends who was studying in Germany at that time. I asked him what the process was, right? So I asked around, I looked up on the internet like what the process was, and I realized that I have to give my, as someone from a non-English speaking country, you have to give your IELTS or your TOEFL.
Okay.
And you also need to give GREs, right?
Okay.
I believe GREs are not mandatory anymore for COVID or something, but anyway, I would suggest that you work for it, right? So I woke up one day, I decided I'm going to do it, right? I talked to a lot of my friends, and I decided that, you know what, I'm going to start studying for my TOEFL and GREs. So lucky for me, English was not exactly my first language, but I did grow up watching movies and stuff on English.
Yeah,
so
you like reading books.
Yeah, and I like reading books, right? Yeah. That's a big plus for me, right? So for me, it was not an issue, right? When it comes to the GREs, the English, the grammar section, I think it's called now, right? And when it comes
qualitative,
to TOEFL,
I think
the qualitative, right? Qualitative, something like that, right? So so for me, that was not an issue, right? Okay. So in our country, you get these books that have mock questions from what the GRE questions are about. So I went through them. I realized that it wasn't much big of a deal. I went to the quantitative section again. That's the math section, right? Mm-hmm. And then I went through it, and I realized that it wasn't a big issue for me either, right? So I practiced, I finished the whole book. It was about this big, right? Yeah. And honestly, it's pretty, I went through it pretty fast, right? It took me about 2 or 3 months. And then I got really confident. By my 3rd month, I realized that, if I do, apply for it, I'm going to get a decent score. Okay. And the way I know what a decent score is because I asked my friends around, and they said that if you want to go to, a really high, university, you have to get, more than 325, mm-hmm. 330, right? Mm-hmm. So during my mock test, I got around, 320. So okay. I assumed that, I'd be good enough, right? Yeah. So I kind of just, I registered for it. Took me, within, 2 weeks, I got a date. And I sat down, and my TOEFL. By the way, by this time my TOEFL was done. Right, the minute I decided that I'm going to go abroad, I registered for the TOEFL. I gave it, and I passed. Or whatever.
Because you were confident in your English speaking abilities.
Yes, I was confident in my English abilities. Right, and the reason for that, number one reason for that, is because I read books. That's the number one thing that pulled me through life. Yeah. Because I am a slacker. Right, I am lazy. Right, but lucky for me, I read books, and a lot of even now when I'm reading research papers, I like reading, right? So I guess that habit of reading, it's perfect for scholarly pursuits, right? So here I am, right? And then I got the so I gave my GREs. I got the score within a month or something, right? And then as soon as I got it, actually even before that, I started applying. Because one of my friends suggested that you can start applying, but you can send the GRE scores later as soon as you get them, right? Mm-hmm. So I started applying around 1 month before I actually gave my GREs, right? The way I started applying is I didn't just apply to America, right? I applied everywhere.
Okay.
I applied to I applied to Germany, I applied to Finland, I applied to UK, Australia, Canada, USA, or whatever, right? So so for those countries, for the European countries, you don't really need GREs, but for America you do, right? So I got like offers from pretty much like all the countries that I applied to. But the good thing is I could afford to wait for all of them to like reply back, and I could afford to choose, right? I had that, I planned it out like that, right? So basically, I applied on July. I was done like applying to every one of them on July, right? By July, right? And they would reply back on, say, like the next year's May or something like that. So I had like a lot of.
So you basically like for the next year's fall, exactly. You applied 1.5 years earlier. Exactly. Usually applications close date is like around November, December, right? Yeah. But exactly. You applied in July.
Exactly.
Nice.
I applied early because, to be honest, like at that time, I don't know what happened to me, right? After I came in America, but at that time I was not confident, but I was like very. Like way more chill than I am right now, right? Yeah. I didn't give a damn about much, right? I just, all right, okay, I can apply it. If I apply, they accept me, great. If I don't, like, you know,
I have other opportunities.
I have other opportunities. I have time, whatever. Yeah. I'm young, you know, I can do whatever I want, right?
It's just like that naive, being that naive, like, you know, mentality, that kind of helps you a lot in that time of the life, right?
Exactly, and that made me proactive because, in a way, I just thought, you know what, let's just finish, like, let's just be done with it, right? So what I was doing while I was applying was I was playing video games, like, right, and then I would just like, you know, every time like I had to like take a break or whatever, I'd just go back to the Word document and, you know, continue writing my SOP and just go back to playing video games, right? I did it like a very, very, like I was very, very chilled out at that time, right? I didn't really think about it much, right? And honestly, I wasn't even worried about my career, right? I just did it on a whim, like I thought it was going to be a fun thing to do, right? So I applied, I got the opportunity, I got accepted to North Carolina Raleigh, which was like. Which was I won't say a dream come true, but I wasn't really expecting like you know to like it's a pretty high ranking school. I wasn't expecting like to get a response from there, right? I did, and then so here's another thing with computer science, right? The caveat here is for American schools, right, or even Canadian ones, right? You have to talk to the professor first, right? So the stupid thing is I didn't do it, right? I didn't do it. So as a result, and I applied to masters, right? Because I thought, you know, back then I thought that you have to do a master's before you do a PhD, right? I didn't know that it was an option to just go into PhD directly, right? So I applied to the master's program, and then I realized that they didn't offer any funding, right? It was very stupid of me. I know I should have, like I said, I just did it.
Just not, like, I had the same problems actually.
Right? Yeah. Like it was like, and then I decided, you know what? If I don't have the funding, the European schools, by the way, they do like it's free, right? Yeah. They don't provide you money, like they don't like give you funding, but it's free technically, right? So I had that option, right? I knew that, but then I said, you know what? Let me just go ask around, see if I can get some funding, right? So I talked to I emailed a few of the professors. A few of them replied back. Some of them said no. Some of them said we'll see, and some of them were like, okay, positive, on the positive side of things, right? And then one of the person who funded me, he worked on hardware, like hard disk stuff, right? On the operating systems and hardware level stuff, right? And he said, you know what, I'm looking for someone with this qualifications. Like, are you good at C and all of this, right? I said, yes, I am. Then we sat for an interview. Like, he gave me like a few papers to read and some coding problems. I finished those, like, you know. They weren't that hard, to be honest. And then he's like, you know what, you're good. Yeah, let's do it, right? So then he decided, like, you know, to fund me, right? So that's how I came to America, right? So, like,
and you started your master's in North Carolina. The funding ran out. You had to switch schools, right? So that's I'm definitely, it's a stressful time being in a foreign country where you I don't know where your next paycheck is coming from, and on the top of that you have to like pay for your tuition and all of that, and then you decide to switch schools, right? So that must have been hard for you.
Oh yeah. So my like I ran out of funding, right? I only had like 6 months of funding, right? So then I thought that, you know, I should have actually known about this before, right? Like I said, I was a very, very chilled out person, right? I didn't really care much about anything at that time. I wasn't like the kind who would like, like plan for the future, right? I just came here on a whim, right? So apparently my funding runs out in in 6 months, right? I had to switch, right? So then I decided that, you know what, by that time I had like a little bit of experience in research, and I decided, you know what, this is fun. I want to do this, right?
Yeah.
So I decided, and then by that time I realized that I can also do a PhD without sticking to a master's, right? So I was like, you know what, why waste time on a master's? Let's just go directly into a PhD, right? So then I decided to look up all the topics that I was interested in, right? And I figured out that I'm really interested in not AI specifically, but distributed machine learning, right? Because I'm a systems guy through and through, right? I've worked with Linux since my undergrad days, right? And I love Linux. And I love cloud computing and stuff like that, right? So I thought it was really fancy, right? So I thought, you know what, I'm gonna go to a professor who can I can do a PhD under for that subject, right? So I shopped around for a while, and I was getting kind of desperate at that point because I was November that I realized that I have to get new funding, right? And I also wanted to move to PhD as soon as possible. And then I realized, then I emailed the professor, my advisor over here. He replied back. He said, you know what, you have good qualifications and so on. Let's have let's meet, right? Let's meet, right? And I did meet with him. And then we had we talked on, I think, Skype, I believe. Right, and he took my interview. He gave me a few papers to read. He said, explain those papers to me. Tell me what you think. Blah blah blah. And after that, he was satisfied with my interview, and he said, you know what, you're good. I'll get the paperwork ready. You can be here by January.
That's amazing.
I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool. Right. And I know that he had to pull a few strings to do that. And I'm really glad, and I'm really grateful for him for that, right? I'll forever, for the rest of my life, I'll be grateful to him for that, right? Because at that time I was really, really desperate, and I was getting really depressed because I thought I might have to come back, because all the fundings in America usually start from the fall semester, which is
for a year plan, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Plan ahead for a year.
Yeah, exactly. So I had to probably go back for 6 months and come back again. Right? I didn't want to do that, right? So yeah, lucky for me, I came here. And
I think it's not just luck; it's your hard work as well.
Maybe, yeah. But the thing is, at the end of the day, right? As long as you have decent GRE scores and a decent English-speaking skills, and you have to be serious about your research, right? You have to have that research mentality is completely different than engineering mentality, right? You have to be able to
just think about that problem day in, day out, 24/7.
Exactly.
Right? So that's how it is.
So that problem has to live inside your head, unfortunately, right? So
that's how you solve the problem.
Yeah, that's how you solve a problem, right? For engineering problems, it's I won't say it's easier, but it's more straight. It's more direct line. Right. It's more like a direct line towards your solution, right?
And you can find a solution on the internet, maybe, but in research you have to go through a lot of hoops to figure out problems.
Exactly, right? You have to come up with really creative solutions that no one has done before.
Otherwise, it's not good research.
Exactly. And so there are two things that my advisor told me that I take to heart, right? Which I believe I will keep with me for the rest of my life, right? The first thing is. This is really weird, and it's going to sound very cheesy, but it's true, right? You've only failed when you've quit. Which is really true, especially in research, right? You never really fail; you just quit, right? That, and the second thing is, he told me that if you go on the internet and you find a solution to a problem that you're working on, it's not a problem worth working for, right? If you find a problem that no one's solved yet, that's how you know that you are working on a good problem. That's what you want to work on, right? And that's how you know you're in the right direction,
in the right research problem.
Exactly, right? So, and he told me this on my first year because I was getting frustrated because I couldn't find a solution to that problem, right? I was like, oh my God, this is the problem, I can't find it. I went through all over Google. I read all the research papers. None of them, give an answer for this, right? And he's like, that's how you know you're right. That's how you know it's a good problem to have. I'm like, oh, that makes sense, So that mentality, shift, it's very important. So what you need, again, is so any aspiring PhD candidates, PhD students here, I would suggest at least in computer science. I don't know about the other fields, right? You have to be able to shift your mentality from engineering to research to be able to survive here. But if you want to get here, you do need to have really good. Obviously, that goes without saying, programming skills, right? And
perseverance, I think it's a very, very good quality to have in PhD.
Yes, again, you only fail when you quit, right? So perseverance. Yeah. That's the thing, right?
And during your PhD, you work in Baidu, a tech giant in China, IBM. I think it would not be like, if we call it dinosaur in IT industry, like it's not in a bad way, but IBM has been around for ages now, like a couple of centuries, right? And then
centuries,
like in 1800, right?
So
1900, right? At least, right, 1900, I think, yeah. And then you are currently working in Microsoft Research, right? All of these, interning in Microsoft Research, right? So, and all of these are located in the Silicon Valley, like the dream of the Kaaba of IT industry or computer science industry, right? How is your experience working in these big tech giant companies, and how was your experience working in Silicon Valley so far?
All right.
Could you share some nuggets or like some of your experiences working in these places?
Right. So the experiences, right, or rather the feelings I've had when I worked in Silicon Valley, right? The first was overwhelming awe, right? That, oh my God, like I am, when I was in my undergrads, even in my college and my school, I was not the top student at all, right? Far from it, right? There are a few subjects I actually failed, right? And during my undergrads, I wasn't the top student. I was like mediocre at best, right? But when I'm here in Silicon Valley, I never imagined in my life that I'd be here, right? I always imagined that, you know what, I'll probably graduate and get mid-ranking, get like a mid to low level job or whatever, and continue my life like that, right? When I went to Silicon Valley, I was like, wow, I never imagined I'd be here, right? And I was really impressed with the culture there, because they're all very, very proactive, right? They're amazingly fun people who actually love what they do, who actually they love it to the point that their work is their life.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
And that culture, even if you're not like that before, when you go in there, if you want to survive, you have to become like that, or your peers kind of influence you, to becoming something like that, right?
I think they push your boundary, right?
Yeah, eventually. They do. So that's my second feeling, right? The first was overwhelming awe. The next one was overwhelming. Yeah. Literally, I was overwhelmed with work. Yeah. They push you hard, right? In order to be able to survive, and in order to be able to compete with other people, right? You have to push yourself.
Learn fast.
Oh yeah, learn. You have to, and they're just saying in Silicon Valley that you have to fail. You are going to fail, but you have to fail fast, and you have to learn fast, and you got to pick yourself up fast and move through life, right? Yeah. That's what I learned, right?
That's very insightful. So before we sign off, I would like to go with this one last question. So what is the one piece of advice you would give to somebody who is thinking about applying for the graduate school, or who is in a graduate school and about to graduate? What would be the one thing that helped you and that might help them in this process?
Right. So a general piece of advice that I think it's not just for grad students in CSE or whatever, it's in general, right? The one single most important factor that brought me where I am today are the people that I've surrounded myself with, right? So you've heard me say a lot of times that I did this, I did that, right? And it makes it sound as though I have done it all by myself, or because of sheer luck, right? But that's not really the case, right? If it weren't for the people that who've helped me along this path, right, I wouldn't have been here, right? And the reason I say this is because, we aren't really we're not really self-sufficient enough as humans. We don't have all the power in the world to get where we are, right? Yeah. So for example, right. Everywhere I went, right, to my undergrads, to my master's, to my PhD, wherever I've been, I've always had people who've always looked out for me, and it's always a give and take kind of thing, right? It's not you just just take or whatever, right? You also have to kind of give and take, and the thing is, you do need to have a certain kind of how do I say this, rapport with people, right? You have to be able to get along with people. If you don't get along with people, you won't get very far in pretty much anywhere, I guess. No matter they show in the movies, there's a lone wolf guy who's doing all the hacking or coding by himself or whatever. That's not how real life works, right? In real life, you do have to have a network of people, and this network is what's actually gonna pull you up to your push you through the life, right?
Yeah.
And I'm honestly really grateful to all the people who've actually helped me get this far, right? So I'm not exactly what you might call an extrovert, right? I don't exactly enjoy hanging out every day or whatever, right? So I'm not really that kind of person, but I do enjoy talking to people. I do enjoy knowing people.
Right?
Yeah, knowing people in general,
yeah.
right? I do like talking to people, right? I do like hanging out, goofing around or whatever, right? And I think that's one of the reasons that I have come this far, right? Wherever I've gone, I've always been blessed or whatever to have found people who are willing to help me out, who have actually helped me out through life, right? So for example, my advisor, I'm so grateful to him, right?
Yeah.
And the relationship that we have, I've always felt like it's been very beneficial to me,
yeah.
and I feel like I feel very grateful to him, right? I feel like I owe him a lot, right?
Yeah.
Even with you guys, right?
Yeah.
You guys are like my peers in my lab, right?
Yeah.
And I learned a lot from you guys.
Yeah.
I don't know whether you guys know it or not, but I learned a lot
from each other, yeah.
Yeah, I learned a lot, and then during my internships as well, right?
Yeah.
Even though it's a competition,
yeah.
it's not a kind of competition where they want to leave you behind, right?
Yeah.
They want to do good, they want to do better, but at the same time, they want to help you out as well if you have that kind of rapport with them, right?
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, it's all about the people, you getting along with people, right?
Yeah.
You having relationships, right? And don't think of it as a transaction kind of thing, right? It's not you shouldn't probably think of it there'll be some kind of people who will not reciprocate,
take advantage of you.
Yeah, they'll take advantage of your niceness or whatever, right? But again, don't think of it like you didn't get anything out of it, right? Don't completely shun those people away, right? At the end of the day, when you help someone, you do end up helping yourself as well. You learn a lot from helping people, and you'll figure that out, right? If you help people in a certain kind of way,
it will come back.
Yeah, it'll come back to you, right?
Yeah.
Regardless of whether you like the person or not, right? So for me, luckily, I can honestly say, throughout my whole journey in my life, I can probably count the number of people I didn't like probably 3,
yeah.
right? Whoever I've ever met,
yeah.
right, in my whole entire life, right? I probably haven't met anyone who I've actively disliked.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, makes sense.
So, and I've also met very few people who actively dislike me,
yeah.
and as a result, I felt that that's my biggest strength. The people that I work with,
yeah.
they've always helped me get here. And if I didn't have these people, right? So I was talking about this, right? So, during the pandemic, all this ideas,
yeah.
they came to me during the pandemic, right? So I was sitting in my room all alone, coding by myself, right? And then I hit a wall, and I decided that, you know what, maybe I should ask this guy or this guy
yeah.
for this, right? Because he works on this. And then I realized that I can't just walk over to that guy because
yeah.
I'm in my room, right?
Yeah.
And then I did a thought experiment, okay, what if I didn't
this guy.
have this guy in my life, right? What if I didn't have any of the guys that I have right now? And
yeah.
I realized that I wouldn't be even 10% of the way that I got here, right?
Makes sense.
People have helped me this far,
yeah.
not me myself, right?
Yeah.
You have to put in the effort. Don't
yeah.
get me wrong, right? You can't just get along with having good relationships, right? You do need to work hard yourself, right? But the extra edge that's where and basically the extra opportunities that you get, right? That's where the people come in, right? And and the more collaborators you have, the more people you know, and the better your relationships are with them, the more enriched you will be in a way, not maybe financially, but mentally you will be. And in Silicon Valley,
there will be more opportunities.
Yeah, there will be more opportunity. And honestly, if you're enriched, people enrich you mentally as well, right?
Yes.
And in Silicon Valley, that does convert into currency.
Yeah.
Right? So that's going to help you as well, right? So even if you're not the kind of person who doesn't get along well with people, think of it more like an investment, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to that's the number one thing. You have to get along with people.
Yeah,
because you are going to be working in teams. You are going to be collaborating a lot.
That's very thoughtful, and that's a great advice for anybody who's applying for a PhD program or who's in a PhD program and planning to graduate soon. So thank you so much, Syed, for your time. I know you are very busy, and good luck with your PhD and all of your research. I hope you come back another time and talk about what kind of cutting your research you're doing, and I would like to know more about your research, and I would share it with my audience as well. But that's for another time. Thank you so much. This was this week's episode. We will be back with another episode next time. Keep subscribing, liking, and sharing, and with your friends. We will be back with another episode, Story of My Life. Thank you so much.